Value. We think we know what the word means, but let's look at this a bit more carefully. The Apple computer, if I gave you a choice between the most valuable company in the world and of owning every product that they ever made from the time it began, or right up to date for free, or paid access to the World Wide Web, meaning every month you pay 500 ringgit to the World Wide Web, what would your choice be? Meaning if you pick the Apple company products, brand new, any amount, you can't have access to the World Wide Web. You pay 500 ringgit for the World Wide Web every month, you can't have access to the Apple company. It's a brain dead question, isn't it? You can't even use 90% of these products without that. And yet, you would not even begin to wonder who, even without knowing his face looked like Steve Jobs. And few people, nine out of 10 people would not be able to tell you that the World Wide Web was created by this English nerd in a Swiss lab, Tim Berners-Lee. We live in a world today where people that make stuff, money, and a name for themselves are valued over those that make an actual difference. We don't understand what value means. We just know what value means in terms of the most valuable company in the world. It's the way the world wants you to think. But we don't think for ourselves what value really means. And this is what this presentation is going to be about. One's about form, the way things look, the way you want to interface with something. It's what, I'm so sorry, we've come to a term called creative content. It's form, yeah, the way you want things to look. And there's this other thing called context, which is the way we understand relationships of what immediately surrounds what we do as part of our lives every day. Context has to do with responsibility, something we are not really taught in schools anymore. And form, the way we want things to look, the way we want to appear to other people, it's all about reputation. School teaches you to take care and serve your reputation before it teaches you how to serve responsibility. And this is one of the biggest misunderstandings of what education should be about in the world. And reputation is, of course, about personal brand, about the individual, you. Whereas responsibility is about society. And it's this big question about the relationship between the individual and society that we are all uncertain about right now. What do you do when you graduate that begins to establish you in society as an individual? Is it about serving yourself, or is it about serving society? Thriving in uncertainty, a very, very interesting theme. I struggled with this a hell of a lot. Do we even know what the word thriving means? Okay, a little bit of a... This is a photograph of a 5-year-old Turkish kid, Alian Kurdi, Syrian kid, Alian Kurdi, who drowned and his body was washed up on the coast of Turkey. Photograph taken by Nilüfer Demir of the Dogan News Agency. This is a photograph taken by Rohit Chawla, basically Ai Weiwei memeing the dead body of Alian Kurdi. Now, the photograph of Alian Kurdi was taken by Nilüfer Demir in September 2015. And Ai Weiwei had this photograph taken of him in February 2016, 6 months later, just about. Ai Weiwei claims that he uses his art to create global awareness of the horrors of the human condition. Except that that photograph already did it. Nilüfer Demir took it in 2015. The whole world reacted in outrage at what's going on with the refugee crisis in Syria. It's time we started to ask whether famous individuals like Ai Weiwei use their art to create awareness of the horrors of the human condition, or whether they're using the horrors of the global human condition to create global awareness of their art. Once again, What is it all for then? If he did not do what he said he was doing, which was to help create global awareness, what was he doing? Memeing the dead body of a poor child. That's what it's all about, isn't it? You see, you can't separate thriving from the internet of social media anymore. They are completely interlinked. You got to be seen. You got to be seen by the world. If you're not seen in social media doing something, you're not thriving. They've become completely inseparable. And it's scary beyond belief. It's all about having the world see you. I'm sorry, I prepared two projects for this. This is a crazy presentation for me to do. I prepared two projects. One was the High Line in New York, and another was the Kebun Bangsa in KL, to tell you about how projects which are and initiatives which are postured and advertised as being for community actually have nothing to do with community. But when I started talking about that slide just now, I suddenly realized that what I want to tell you is beyond what I prepared, and I'm not going to go on with my presentation, and I, in fact, just talk to you about what's really important today, yeah? Seeing. Seeing. We want the world to see us. What is it about? You know, when you go Sunday morning shopping with your mom, or your dad, your mom. Your dad doesn't go shopping with you in the morning. You don't care how you dress. You got your flip-flops, you got your pajamas. You don't care. You're normal. You talk with them. You're hanging loose with your mom, and they know you, so you don't care, right? You're going for that first hot date with that guy or that girl you've been admiring for the last 3 months. Man, you're a totally different person, right? You'll do your girls, you'll do your hair up. The guys will be really careful about how they treat you. You're a completely different person. You're not honestly who you are you? That's how important it is to be seen. The moment you know you're being watched, the moment you know you're seen, it changes the way you behave. You're no longer the person that you are. You're no longer really honest about who you are you? You know, in 2012, there was an amazing commencement graduation ceremony lecture presented at Wellesley College by Professor David McCullough Jr. The commencement lecture was called "You Are Not Special," and in it he urged young people to climb mountains so they could see the world, and not so that the world can see them. You know, you climb Mount Everest nowadays. I mean, rich people, you know, they pay to have Sherpas carry them up. And at the top of Mount Everest, there's that selfie. Yeah? There's that selfie. That selfie with influences, I'm so sorry, with influences, with other artists, with other curators, with refugees, with all the people that you want to know that you're thriving. It's lazy. I'm sorry. It's lazy. And what's happening is, we don't climb mountains to see the world. Now, why is it important to see the world? Why is it not important for the world to see us? There's this other thing, you know, about, you know, you don't go with the flow, because only dead fish go with the flow, right? So what do? We go against the flow. Wow. You know what you do when you go against the flow? You are fighting and swimming against dead fish going with the flow. You're in that same dirty, filthy river of dead fish, social media, putrefaction, being seen, and you're all spectated because you're in the same dirty river. Everyone's in the riverbanks looking at you, spectating you, swimming against the flow of dead fish. You got to get out of that river. Get out of the river of filthy social media, of being seen, and of being seen to be thriving. Go away to some dark corner of the forest or some mountain somewhere and do things where no one is looking at what you're doing. You know why? Because then you're really doing things honestly. No one's looking. You don't have to worry about what your end product is, because you are only learning the way everyone else learns in their lives. You learn about yourself. You can't learn about yourself when people are spectating you. You know, you can't. You only know who you are when you really explore what life is in the process of self-discovery. That's what life's all about, self-discovery. So that's why you climb mountains to see the world, not for the world to see you. You see dead fish, and then we move on to climbing mountains. Let's get back to David McCullough Jr. You see, if you're a mountain climber, you'll know that Ed Vestures, he's one of the greatest mountaineers of all time, he said, summiting is optional, returning is mandatory. What does that mean? That means that the turnaround time if you're climbing Mount Everest used to be 2 o'clock in the afternoon, meaning if you're not on the summit by 2, you have to turn around and go back home even if you're only 2 steps away. Now it's been reduced to 12. By noon, you've got to be making your way back down. Otherwise, you won't make it up. Now, if you paid someone to help you get up Mount Everest, your goal is to summit. It becomes mandatory. And when something is mandatory, you will expend all your energy to summit. Do you know what? 95% of deaths on Mount Everest happen on the way home. You have exhausted all your strength because you had to summit. And you die coming back down. Okay? Now what happens is the summit isn't there for you to see what your goal is when you're climbing, you know? It's not. It's to guide your next 10 steps. Why? Because that's part of the journey in discovering what you are as a mountain climber. Every 10 steps you take, you save the energy of 1 step. You do it in 9 steps instead. By the time you get to the summit, you have saved energy of 2,888 steps. And that will see you back home. But you see, mountain climbing is that whole process of self-discovery where you begin to understand what you are capable of, what you can do without someone looking at you and spectating. There's this documentary on Netflix called Roadrunner. Have you guys seen it? It's about the famous foodie guy, what's his name? Anthony Bourdain. He wrote an amazing book. When no one knew him, he was not famous, he wrote this amazing book called Kitchen Confidential. And in it, he documented all the lies or the truths, the entire world of culinary arts, right? And then he got featured in this fantastic documentary about traveling the world, and you know, after a few years, he committed suicide. He committed suicide. Go watch this documentary, pretty good. He committed suicide after it was published in a whole bunch of gossip magazines in Europe that this woman he was dating at the time, Asia Argento, was seen holding hands with some new lover, you know, and he was already reported that being his girlfriend, right? And he committed suicide. You see, when you're seen by the world to a point where you have achieved fame, what others see of you is more important than how you see yourself. It's no longer important what you are. You don't know who you are. So the documentary is great because it really showed him for what it was. It was really great, but it was awful because it didn't explain why. It said he was lost. He was looking for something and he never found it. And then he committed suicide. And some blamed, you know, the ex-girlfriend. How could you be so? But the last thing he said the night he committed suicide was a little bit more discretion. About she could have been a bit more discreet about seeing someone new. So he knew they had already broken up. That didn't drive him to suicide. The straw that broke the camel's back was the whole world seeing what was not supposed to be seen. You see, we live in a world of memes. We live in a world of memes. If you're really intelligent, if you're really intelligent, like Anthony Bourdain was, or like Ernest Hemingway, or Kurt Cobain, you commit suicide because you can't live that life of hypocrisy anymore. You can't live that life that is not, wait a minute, I don't know myself anymore. Everything is about what the way the world sees me. You've stopped discovering who you are. When you live a life of memes, it's the easy way out. It's for the people who are less intelligent. And that's what the whole world's about these days. I know I've got only 2 minutes left. Can I just take an additional minute? You know, there's this movie called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It is a movie of a continuous stream of memes from every single movie ever made in Hollywood. What is a meme? Do you guys remember that Star Wars when Kylo Ren killed his father, Harrison Ford, stabbed him? No development of character there. You just, father, son, you're supposed to empathize, and when he killed him, oh my God, the father killed the son. That's a meme. No character development, just taking, cut and pasting our whole lives to have you empathize without understanding what it's all about. That's what happens when you forget the self-discovery of what your journeys are, and you take the easy way out by engaging social media to meme in order to be seen, because how you're seeing them becomes more important than how you see. And that's the only message I want to leave you with. It's about the form of memes, how much you want to cut and paste, and the context from where that's cut and pasted from. Because one of them will be about responsibility, and the other will be about reputation, and it's important to understand what you're serving, who you're serving, if you're just serving yourself, because that's all thriving is about these days. No one thrives responsibly anymore, and that's wrong. Thank you very much.